Hello, I recently saw a bunch of YouTubers picking out their monthly TBR by putting their TBR list in a jar and pulling out books at random, and I was inspired to do that. However, I already have 2 books on my August TBR that I already picked up from the library, so we'll do those 2 first, and then we'll pick 2 books at random from this jar. If it looks like it's lacking, it's because I don't actually have a very long TBR. Let's see, I have 6 books on my TBR, and I don't really buy books very often. I like to support my local library because it gets me out of the house. So moving past that, we'll go into our first book. The first book on my August TBR is Don't Want You Like a Best Friend, and it is by Emma R. Albin. It essentially follows 2 debutantes in the year 1857. Their names are Beth and Gwen. Beth really needs to find a husband because she just lost her dad, her mother is a widow, and it's 1857, so they're not getting any of the money, nor the estate. So she needs to find a husband who can give them financial security. And then there's Gwen, and it's her 4th season. She clearly doesn't have a lot of interest in finding a husband. She has a wealthy father, so she kind of has the privilege of taking her time. As you can see from the cover, this is a queer book. There are a lot of challenges that come from being queer in 1857, and essentially this book explores that. So I'm very, very excited to see what happens. I am feeling skeptical because I just don't know how they're going to make it work, but I saw it and it was like queer Bridgerton in my mind, so I just had to pick it up and see. All right, I am sure many of you will recognize the next book on my list, and it is Dune. I actually have not seen either of the movies, so I'm going into this totally blind. I also have had nothing spoiled for me, miraculously. If you don't know much about Dune, it is a sci-fi book. It was published in, I think, 1965, so it's a bit older. A lot of people see it as kind of one of the classics in the sci-fi genre, so I'm super excited to hop into it. I honestly don't know anything else about this book. I sometimes like to avoid reading the back of it because I just like to be surprised along the entire way. And I feel like probably a lot of you already know something about this book, so I'm just gonna let myself enjoy and relish in the fact that a classic has not been spoiled for me yet. Okay, so this is where we get to the more exciting part of the video, where we pick 2 books at random from this here jar. For reference, these are the books that we have as options if you want to pause the video and see what I've got going on here. But we're just gonna hop right into the jar and see which one we pull out. Okay, let's see. Okay, the first one is Hellbent. Hopefully that's focusing because I honestly don't know. I'm recording this on my phone. Let's pull it at the can't speak. It's at the very bottom. Okay, Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo. This is a sequel to the book Ninth House. I loved Ninth House. It has that dark academia, dark fantasy type vibe, which has been a favorite genre of mine for probably the past 3 years. I have been putting off this sequel for so long because sometimes I just get too emotionally attached to characters, and I just can't bring myself to read about them suffering again. But I cannot be putting this off any longer. I honestly think I'm suffering more from just not reading it, so I'm super excited to jump into this. I'm not going to tell you anything about the synopsis because it is a sequel, but you should definitely check out Ninth House if you haven't already. If you're into anything like The Secret History, or If We Were Villains, you will love Ninth House. Okay, so we're on to the very last book that I'm going to be doing for this video. We've got a pretty crazy mix of books on my TBR. I think I've got a genuine classic, Moby Dick. I have YA, I have nonfiction, I have some high fantasy, sci-fi, so who knows what kind of vibe we're gonna end up getting. Okay, I got Rise to the Sun. Hopefully that's focusing once again. I honestly was not expecting to get this one. I don't know why, because I have the same chance of picking any of these, but I have not been reading YA recently, but this is the author of You Should See Me in a Crown, Leah Johnson. And I loved that book. It's been years. I read it in high school, but I remember giving it 5 stars. So I'm super excited to check this one out. I think it's set at a music festival. Let's see. Okay. 3 days, 2 girls, 1 life-changing music festival. I'll just read this last bit. So it follows Olivia and Tony, and when the two arrive at farmland, the last thing they expect is to realize that they'll need to join forces in order to get what they're searching for out of the weekend. As they work together, the festival becomes so much more complicated than they bargained for. Olivia and Tony will find that they need each other and music more than they ever could have imagined. Okay, I'm very excited to be reading this. It's been on my TBR, I think, longer than any of these other books, so it's due time, and I think it'll be a great way to end my summer vacation. It's at a music festival, so it's definitely giving August energy, and then in September we will get into some more fall themed books. This is a perfect send-off. Okay, so these are the 4 books that I'm going to be reading in August. Thank you so much for watching my video and supporting my channel. I really appreciate it. And I hope you all have a wonderful day.